Have you ever wondered if the red you see is the same red I see? It's a classic philosophical question. But what if I told you that for most of human history, people didn't even see the color blue? Not because their eyes were different, but because their language didn't have a word for it. Today, we're diving into the fascinating and, frankly, bizarre history of color and how we, as humans, literally invented the rainbow. Let's start our journey in ancient Greece with the great poet Homer. In his epic poems, the Iliad and the Odyssey, he describes the sea as wind-dark, not blue, not green, but wind-dark. He also describes honey as green and sheep as violet. It's not just Homer. If you look at ancient texts from around the world, from the Icelandic Sagas to the Hindu Vedas, and even ancient Chinese stories find a striking absence of the word blue. So, did these people not see blue? This is where a 19th century scholar named William Gladstone, who later became Prime Minister of Britain, enters the picture. He meticulously analyzed Homer's use of color and found that black and white were mentioned the most, followed by red, yellow, and green. Blue was nowhere to be found. He theorized that the ancient Greeks might have been colorblind, but a linguist named Lazarus Geiger picked up this research and discovered it wasn't a Greek phenomenon. It was a global one. Geiger found a universal pattern in how languages develop color terms. Almost every language starts with words for black and white, or dark and light. The very first true color to get its own name is almost always red, the color of blood and life. After red, languages typically develop words for yellow and then green, the very last color to appear in nearly every language. You guessed it, blue. Think about it. Besides the sky and maybe some rare flowers or minerals, blue is surprisingly uncommon in nature. Red, yellow, and green are everywhere in fruits, plants, and the earth itself. So, without a need to distinguish it, early humans simply didn't name it. The theory goes that until a culture has a word for a color, they don't consciously perceive it. It's a classic case of you can't see what you can't name. The first ancient culture to have a word for blue was the Egyptians. And why? Because they were the only ones who could produce blue dye. They figured out how to create a vibrant, permanent blue pigment using ground limestone sand and a copper-containing mineral like malachite. They adored this new color, using it to dye clothing, paint jewelry, and decorate the tombs of pharaohs. Because they could make it, they needed a word for it. Once they had the word, they started seeing blue everywhere. This Egyptian blue became a highly sought-after luxury item, spreading the concept of blue across the ancient world. But that just covers the basic colors. What about the full spectrum? For that, we need to jump forward to the 17th century and meet one of the greatest scientific minds ever, Sir Isaac Newton. Before Newton, people thought color was a mixture of light and darkness. Red rose was red because it had some inherent redness inside it. But Newton, with his famous prism experiment, turned this idea on its head. In 1666, while Cambridge University was closed due to the plague, Newton spent his time experimenting at home. He darkened his room, let a single beam of sunlight pass through a small hole, and placed a glass prism in its path. What emerged on the opposite wall wasn't a white spot, but a stunning band of colors, just like a rainbow. He had discovered that white light isn't pure. It's a composite of all the colors of the visible spectrum. The prism wasn't adding color to the light. It was simply separating the colors that were already there. But here's where it gets interesting again. Newton identified 7 colors in his spectrum: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. You probably know them by the acronym ROYGBIV, but why 7? The transition from blue to violet is pretty smooth. Why did he feel the need to stick indigo in between? The answer has less to do with science and more to do with superstition and music. Newton was deeply interested in the mystical and believed that the universe was governed by a divine harmony. The number 7 was considered powerful and significant in Western culture. 7 days of the week. 7 notes in a musical scale, 7 known planets at the time. Newton wanted the colors of the spectrum to correspond to the 7 notes of the diatonic scale do: re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti. So, he added orange and indigo to his original 5 colors: red, yellow, green, blue, and violet, to make the total 7. That's right. The rainbow, as you learned it in school, was designed to match a musical scale. Indigo isn't really a distinct color to most people's eyes. It was a fudge factor to make the science fit a philosophical ideal. So, From the wind-dark sea of the ancient world to Newton's musical rainbow, our perception of color has been a journey of discovery and invention. It shows that what we see isn't just a physical process of light hitting our retinas. It's shaped by our language, our culture, and even our scientific beliefs. The colors we see are a story we've been telling ourselves for thousands of years, a story that continues to evolve. And that brings us back to the original question. Is my red the same as your red? Scientifically, probably. Our eyes and brains are wired similarly. But culturally and linguistically, our experience of that red might be subtly different. Colored by the history, words, and ideas that have been passed down to us. The world isn't just full of color, it's full of our human story about color. Thanks for watching this journey through the spectrum. If you found this as fascinating as I did, hit that like button and subscribe for more explorations into the weird and wonderful history of our world. Hey, see you next time.